Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi there, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. I am so interested in having a conversation today with my very special guest, Monica Ocejo. The remainder of this introduction comes from a piece that Monica wrote about herself, and that's because Monica has a way with words. She writes this: Monica is a let me start that. Monica is a Mexican-born fashion designer, entrepreneur, and accidental philosopher who believes in the healing power of laughter, lipstick, and lime. After launching a successful fashion line and participating in Miami Fashion Week, Monica discovered her true runway was life itself. She's a breast cancer survivor, devoted mom of 3, and a margarita enthusiast who isn't afraid to pair stilettos with tortillas. Monica splits her time between running a highly successful business, the Tortilla House, as well as designing, cooking, and dodging life's unexpected salsas with grace and humor. Between Threads and Tortillas is her debut memoir and a love letter to resilience, heritage, and messy but beautiful reinvention. With that, let's get Monica on the show. Monica Ocejo, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you for that introduction and thank you for having me.
Well, I'd love to say I wrote the introduction. I wish I could say that. It was just there are so many cool lines in it.
Yeah, it's
You
fun.
do have a way with words. That must have been fun for you to write.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make things lighter, trying to explain things a little bit my way with the Mexican culture and everything that's happened in my life. So yeah, have a little fun with it.
Yeah, and as we talked, the all of our show guests understand that I have a pre-conversation with my guests. And the Mexican culture, I really love that you are intent on bringing the Mexican culture into our conversation. And I was raised in a Mexican culture and am very involved in in Mexican culture now. I work in the inner cities of in here in Orange County, working with a lot of immigrants, recent immigrants, and helping them adjust and get ready for life here in the United States. And so I have a deep love for the Mexican culture myself. So you know what I want to do, Monica, is I'd like to start the show with your story of immigration from Mexico several years ago. You have a different immigration story than the one most of us are familiar with. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Charlie. Thank you for just I just love when I meet people that just appreciate Mexican culture because for us Mexicans, we're so embedded with our culture. Like if you ask me, what's your identity? Always my first thought is I'm Mexican. Even though I'm now American citizen, we've gone through I've been living here like for 13 years now, and I love America. One part of like I think that of the Mexico and US history that it doesn't bring it to the story is that in Mexico we love America. Like we grow up as Mexican culture is some you can see it here in America. In Mexico, you can see so much of American culture. Like we grew up like watching your movies, hearing your values, it's like our wow, United States for us Mexicans, to come here and to see your streets, your cities. It's like for us it's like what I'm trying to say is that we feel a lot of love for you guys, and I guess that you can see that with a lot of people trying to come here. You know, that's why they come. They come because they really love this country, and looking for opportunities. And as you said, my story is a little bit. It's the same as every immigrant. You come here with just expectations and with, you know, um, back in Mexico, we come from a background that my husband had a good job. Like I had also, you know, my fashion business, but insecurity in Mexico, as you know, is not well. Like there was a kidnapping in my family, and that like really kind of traumatized me. And it's not that Mexico it's not safe, it's just that things happen in big cities, and you
And
know,
you're
it
from
happened.
Mexico City, right?
I'm from Mexico City, right? And so that kind of like set me off in this journey of telling, like trying to convince my husband to move here to the States. And actually, we had like a privileged position back in Mexico, and my husband would be like, what are we gonna do there? Who's gonna hire us? You know, we have opportunities here, but I wanted to come here because here I feel free in the streets, you know. In Mexico, sometimes I lived a little bit with fear, and I wanted to feel free. I wanted to feel like, you know, I could go, my kids could go and, you know, ride a bike and be okay. And so that's why I wanted to tell my story, just to try to show a different side. And a lot of people that come here are looking for that freedom because our countries are not that stable in that sense, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You know, and I think there's a lot of people that have no, not a lot of people. I think most Americans do not have a good understanding of the Mexican culture and of the Mexican immigrant. You know, we are taught by certain political parties that, you know, Mexican immigrants should not be here. And if they're here, you know, they need to come like you did. You know, you came the legal way, but you were fortunate. Not everybody is fortunate. Not everybody comes from a position to be able to do that. And, you know, and we were talking, they come here, you know, we think there's a lot of people that think, and, you know, I just had dinner with two very, you know, dear friends that are very conservative, and they have this view that Mexicans are coming, the Mexican immigrants are coming here, or people that have crossed the border are coming here to take advantage of an American system. And that's not the right way to put it, because you explain, and I like this, that they come to America to be a part of something grand, something bigger, and something that is filled with opportunity. And you know, I know I have lots of Mexican friends, and and you know, they're not here to take advantage. They're here to take advantage of an opportunity and to work hard. The hardest workers out there are Mexican people. They are just
absolutely.
hard. You just can't deny that they're hard workers.
Absolutely, Charlie. They come here looking for opportunities, looking for freedom, looking for safety. And I mean, it's just, and th- and they understand pretty well the American culture because, as I said, like, you know, everyone in Mexico knows who Superman is, or, and you know, or Mickey Mouse, or, you know, we're very, it's very embedded in us that we are kind of like neighbors. They, a lot of people in Mexico speak English. You know, you go
Yeah,
to, it's, we're intertwined. That's what I'm trying to say. And it would be nice that maybe people would get to know more Mexican people that, maybe your friends didn't know a lot of Mexican people, and that's why they have that opinion. And because as I said, I feel like I'm a guest here also. I think that also when you're here and you're in a country that has welcomed you with open arms, you also have to follow the rules and follow the law, and I'm absolutely for that. But we Mexicans just come here because we really are looking for opportunities and a safe space that maybe our country couldn't provide. So yeah, I hope, like, immigration is such a complicated subject, and it would be amazing that both sides could agree and just get a plan. It's been long overdue to get like an immigration policy that would benefit the United States as well as Mexico.
Yeah, I agree. But now you came, and part of what United States offered was an opportunity for you to pursue. I mean, I take a look at what is entrepreneurship, and when you look up the definition of entrepreneur in the dictionary, your photograph is right there.
Oh my
This is an
God.
entrepreneur. I mean, you really
Please.
are. I mean, you started as a fashion designer, successful fashion designer. You showed on
Mhm.
Miami Fashion Week, which is that's not a small deal. That's a big deal. And yet you dropped that and you founded a business it's kind of a big box business now in a way, isn't it? Don't you sell to a lot of people to the Tortilla
Yeah, we
House?
we yeah, we're trying to expand and to grow. We're trying to get into more supermarkets and to make it bigger. But yeah, I mean, I think I get that from my dad. My dad was, I come from a family that I always saw my dad with his business and struggling and fighting, and it's really difficult. It's a life where you don't, you know, you maybe you got successes, but you don't feel that successful because the next payment of the rent is coming, and you need to pay your employees, and you got this customer that it's a very, but I love it. Like, I really love creating, and most of all, offering people what I thought. For example, when I did the dresses, what I loved is to offer women a piece of clothing that they would feel secure in themselves, that they would feel beautiful. Like, I love the creative part of the dress, but also the end purpose of making somebody feel special and empowered to go on their day. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. That's why the book is called from threads to tortillas. And also, it's also, like, the book, unravels in the book. And I wanted that title also because, fashion seems so it is very glamorous, and oh, you're a fashion designer, and people are so impressed. And then I went from doing that to selling tortillas, which in Mexico, tortillas, women that sell tortillas are maybe not that up in the social, totem, and you know what? Like, I found my peace making tortillas in a way. I found more peace and in that business than in the fashion business. And I wanted to make a point of that because sometimes in life, flashy things are not what they seem to be, you know? So I wanted that title because mainly because of that.
I like, what you're saying in that it calls for a lot. I can tell you've done a lot of self-examination, a lot of taking a look at who you are. It feels like there's a sense of authenticity that is genuine about you, because perhaps, your fashion design was not inauthentic, but the tortilla business is more aligned, it seems, with your core. And you felt that while being a fashion designer looks good, tortilla manufacture doesn't look good. But this is where my heart is. This is where my soul is. And I like you going with that. So, first of all, it takes understanding, and then it takes courage to do something different. And it also takes something that I wanted to talk that we had discussed, was creativity. You're a very creative person. Like, if everybody can see the art behind you, and that is done by, I had to ask you, what is that art? And it's the galaxy, because we're only seeing the bottom half of the art, because the top half shows that this is a galaxy that you put on as art, that you put on canvas. And it's beautiful. You took that creativity and brought it to entrepreneurship and business. And
Mhm.
that business is all about making money. So how do you bring creativity into a business that is truly a business? Is a bottom line, you've got to sell tortillas.
Right.
But there is a process to that that's very creative. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that creativity is everywhere in your life, even making, as we talked about, making a podcast, it requires a lot of creativity. And so in business, I guess it's the same. Like, how am I going to approach my clients? How am I going to get out my product? And in my case with the tortillas, it was funny because I live in Miami, in Florida, and there aren't many Mexicans here, really. They're more like Latin Americans from all over, Central and South America. And so there wasn't any real good tortillas here. So that came from an
That is
idea.
that is so funny. You're telling me there's not good tortillas in
No, there
Florida. I'm
weren't.
thinking that's different than LA. LA
I
has
know.
lots of tortillas.
And in Texas, I believe they also have, maybe
Yeah,
Chicago, but
yeah.
here in Miami, no tortillas, And so my husband and I were like, well, you have to make some sacrifices, and that's, like our Mexican food. And so one, like, I cooked. I like, also in my family was like, the recipes, and how my mom and my tias, my aunts and my abuela, how they cooked. It was like a major deal. Like it was like, if you invite people over, it's like who serves the most delicious, meal. So I took that from them, and started cooking a bit here, and saw that that was kind of successful. And then with a friend of mine, we decided to bring a tortilla machine from Mexico to the States, and because there wasn't any here in Miami. So it was more to self-serve a need of ours, and then share it with the community. But I love that, because like I remember, like, one client wrote me, oh, that they were even from Ireland. They were not even from the States. And they said, we went fishing, and we went fishing, we want to have dinner, fish tacos. And so they would buy the tortillas from us, and people from all over the world, like, really really like them. So I just love sharing part of my culture with everybody, and seeing them make them happy. That's really appealing to me.
I want to talk more about creativity, but before I do that, I want to talk about cooking and Mexico, and how important, the films that I watch. I'm thinking, is it the film like Water for Chocolate? Is that the one in
Wow.
that? And that there's a lot about cooking in that. And then I went through a phase, and I know you're going to ask me the names of the films that I saw, but I got stuck on Mexican movies.
Mhm.
And Gael Gabriel Garcia, is that his name?
García Bernal, yeah.
Yeah, I
Gael García,
love
yeah, Bernal.
I love him. I love him. And Pedro, he was
Which
with
one?
him. They did a movie together.
Oh, Diego
Um,
Luna.
Diego Luna. Yeah, Diego
Yeah,
Luna. I love the two of them. Anytime I see them in a movie that they're going to be in a movie, I'm going to go see that movie because they're both such good actors.
yeah,
I think Gael, or however you go by his first
yeah,
name, did a film about, or no, I think it might have been a TV series that was about the symphony, one of the symphonies, and he was the symphony director. It was brilliant. He was just so good. And there's I loved Mexican movies. I loved, and cooking was such a part of every movie. There's going to be something where there's going to be cooking, and mom and grandma and uh,
yeah,
are all together in the family, and it's just a big deal. And it reminds me, my whole family's from Oklahoma, and it reminds me of the Okies. And the Okies, cooking in the Okies was, for the Okies was a big deal. And our cooking was not gourmet cooking. We lived on red beans and ham hocks and cornbread and and dumplings and chicken, poor people's food. And that's kind of like what Mexico does. It's poor people's food made beautiful and wonderful.
yeah, absolutely. That's every household in Mexico has a bunch of tortillas in there, you know? You just slice some cheese in it, you have quesadillas. It's like, so it's it's really easy. It's like you have like five elements and you mix all those elements, and it's like Italian cuisine also that has pasta and tomato, and you have all these different type of pastas, all these different types of
Right,
sauces.
right,
So it's
right.
just a few elements and you mix those up over and over again. But yeah, I love that you love that book, Como Agua para Chocolate, the one, and it has some recipes, and
Oh
my
yeah.
book, yeah, it has my book is a little bit an homage to that book because I put in some recipes also in my book, and I put the recipes accordingly to the moment in time. For example, the first chapter, when I get diagnosed with breast cancer, the the recipe I recommend, or that I give, is a tamarind margarita to have after you get like a scare, right? Have a margarita after a big scare. So that's the type of, like, and that movie, like, in English, I don't know how it's like, for water for chocolate or something, but
I think it's like water for chocolate.
like water for chocolate, yeah. And that movie I just adored. And also, I grew up with Gael Garcia Bernal and Diego Luna, and those guys are amazing, and I love that they're also bringing us a little bit together, because when you get to know more Mexican actors, you like them. They're cool. They're like anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, Mexican film, we can get into film. Mexican film is it is different than American film. And
Yeah.
it's like I know that I'm going to watch a whole different take on life. I know I saw a film that Penelope Cruz,
Hmm.
is that
Penelope
her name?
Cruz.
She's
Yeah.
Spanish, right?
Yeah, she's Spanish.
Yeah, but she was in a Mexican film, and they did part of the film. I mean, it's so human, it's so realistic, and that they show her taking a pee in the bathroom, and she's having a conversation. This is the way real life is. American film is not going to do that. they're not going to get that gritty. But Mexicans are just, they're going to be real, and it's going to be what life is about. And I
Mexicans don't
encourage.
care. Like they don't care. They're just gonna laugh everything off. And I was talking to my husband earlier, and I said, we laugh about, we laugh about death. We laugh about everything. We do like I come from Mexico City where there's a lot of earthquakes and they're kind of really scary. I mean,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like buildings
Oh, I
collapse. it's
know. I
it's
know.
not I mean, it's not funny, but if like the moment it starts to the earthquake, like everyone's fine, yeah, yeah, everyone's fine, and 5 minutes before that you have the memes, every Mexican is making fun of the earthquake. And that's a little bit, I miss that, because here in America, I feel that they take everything very seriously. They don't laugh that much. And you have such an amazing country, like really, like, and that's the only thing that I wish I could show Americans how foreigners or how people that do not live here see your country, because it does it does marvel us, all the things that you have done in, like, just in my case, for example, when I got treated of breast cancer, I had the privilege to be taken care by American doctors, and just the science and the surgery, everything, you guys should enjoy more. That's what I'm trying to say. Instead of like just being, like, sometimes I feel that instead of focusing in the bad things, you should really appreciate what an amazing country you guys have. Or I can include myself now because I'm American citizen now. But but it is one of the best countries in the world to be an entrepreneur, to study a career. For example, my kids, for an education, healthcare wise, if you're privileged enough to, but even if people, like, even if somebody in the street gets run over, they're gonna have care in the hospital.
Right.
So, like, that type of stuff, it's, for me, it's worthwhile leaving my country and leaving my tias and my abuelas and leaving everybody to come here and experience that.
And it's good
So,
for us to experience Mexico, to
right.
experience that because it gives us an insight into us. That's why I love foreign travel, but I don't, I am not I've done enough travel. I've been to maybe 35 or more countries. Um, and I don't travel to sightsee. If you want to go see things, I'm a terrible person at it because I just go, I want to walk the streets. Like I went to Amsterdam and I didn't, I was walking the side streets of Amsterdam and going, hanging. I wasn't hanging out in the where everybody hangs out, and I do that all through Europe and I studied. I didn't tell you this. I decided to learn Spanish, and I took a Spanish immersion class, and I didn't stay with it. And the only reason I didn't stay with it, Monica, is that I had no one to talk to. I realized
Oh,
after I learned the language, I would lose it because I had no one. Even though I live in the heart of Mexican America, I don't have Mexican friends that I actually hang with regularly that I could speak Spanish. But I spent a week in Oaxaca in an
wow.
immersion class. I fell in love with Oaxaca. And I got to tell everybody, you may not know this, but Oaxaca is one of the cuisine capitals of the world. I think there are like 13 or 14 Michelin restaurants in Oaxaca. I mean, it's just the number is astounding. Every night we ate at a Michelin restaurant. And the food was just outstanding. And you know what they did? It's the only place I've seen that has ever done this. I was at one Michelin restaurant in Oaxaca. I don't drink. I'm alcoholic, so I don't drink alcohol. And they knew I didn't drink, so they paired my meals with mocktails. I mean, they made a
Yeah,
mocktail a special pairing to go with a certain course of my meal. And so every course, like everybody would have a different wine, that the wine food, I would have a different mocktail. And I just thought that was so fun. That was so creative. That
yeah.
was
Oaxaca is beautiful. It's beautiful, and a lot of people that like I've been wanting to go there with my kids because they need to see that type of culture and the artisans. I don't know if you got to see how they weave all the like all the fabrics and the alebrijes, how all the artisan that they're so creative there. It's like just it's a little bit of art exploding everywhere.
oh, it is beautiful. I bought a it was crazy. I bought an alebrija, is that
Alebrije,
right?
alebrije, yeah,
Alebrije.
right.
I bought an alebrije, my son's birth alebrije, and I bought one for him. It was terribly expensive. It was just I couldn't believe. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's going to cost $500 or $1,000. No, not
Wow,
for this one. This one was like I think like
wow,
$3,500
wow.
for an alebrije, but it's he's just now he moves as a baseball player. He moves around too much, so I'm keeping it and he just bought a house in Texas, and so I will finally be able to take his alebrije and put it in his own house.
That would be perfect for him in Texas. Yeah, the alebrijes I was watching that they take so much time to make them. They're
It's
so
all
intrinsic.
handmade
It's
from the
all
beginning, and it's
handmade.
hand
I
carved and hand sanded, hand
Yeah, so
painted.
yeah, so that's a beautiful present to have.
So tell me, let's go back to you and creativity. We had talked yesterday, and you talked about it was much easier for you to find creativity in fashion design than it was in the beginning to find creativity in tortilla manufacturing.
Right.
But you still are creative and you're painting, you're doing these things on the side. But I think the business itself it requires to run a successful business requires immense creativity, but it's not artistic creativity. It
Exactly.
is a whole different kind of creativity. Talk to me about that kind of creativity, how you learn to translate your artistic creativity in fashion to business creativity. I don't know if you've even thought about this. I could be asking something you've not even thought about.
No, it's an interesting question. Um, I started my bachelor's is in business administration, so I do have
Okay.
some training in that. And so I guess for me, it's more than I want to turn my creativity into business, if that makes sense. I want
Yes, it
to
does.
it like the business comes from it's like it's born out of an idea I want to create and I want to bring to life. So, all the different strategies of it really is difficult. As you said, it's so difficult to just say, how am I gonna deliver this? How am I like there's so many questions that need answer that you could have to think about it. And artistic creativity comes from, I guess, from another place. I guess it's a little bit more spiritual, it's a little bit more a need to
Hmm.
express something that you have inside yourself. So, for example, the book is also writing is creative, and it comes from something within you to express that feeling. And I guess business wise is is not that profound. It's more, as you said, like what's the bottom line, and where should I get my clients, who should be a nice, what the culture of my company wants. I want to create a nice environment also for that's also creativity, right? You got to create an
Absolutely.
environment. So yeah, I think for me, I enjoy much more. That's why I'm also pivoting a little bit in writing and doing this type of art, because I in my soul I get much more happiness from doing that type of creativity, the artistic one.
Yeah. My wife is an executive coach, and she has a group of women that she's working with, and they're all high level. They're typically C-suite or just bordering on C-suite executive sort of VPs and leaders in companies. And she is she is going to present to them, and she's asked me to help because this is my area of expertise, but help them create their personal brand and how that relates to their business brand, how their personal brand becomes their business brand. And I said, what it really comes to, it's your personal brand is a demonstration of yourself, of who you are in your deepest core self. And to create your personal brand, you have to go through and understand your values, your purpose. And those are not that difficult to understand if we take time to actually try to understand ourselves more deeply. And I think you don't give yourself enough credit in that your tortilla business is part of who you are. It is not just something you do. It is an expression of Monica Ocejo and how that is expressed in the world. And so you are using that. That is your creativity. You're using that. That's why your business is different. It's not that your business values are different. It's that your personal values are different. And you're taking your personal values and you're bringing those into an endeavor, a business endeavor. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it completely makes sense. But you know what, Charlie? I feel that we almost we need to live life like that. Like you need to
Oh,
live
yes.
you need to live life by your values and by what you think of, who you are. Um, I make tortillas because I want to share with the Americans a little bit of my culture and my love for my culture. Um, but yeah, like we need to be, well, I like to be consistent on my values and what I do. And I think that's an important part of what you're saying.
Yeah, and you've got to be creative to do that.
Right.
If you're
Right.
not, it's a different kind of creativity than putting resin on a canvas
Yeah.
or making a dress, designing and building a dress.
Mhm.
Those are in one realm of creativity, but it's this other realm is not lesser, it's just another realm of creativity, which is taking something that can be very rote. You go to business school and they teach you to be very rote. They teach you to, here are your business objectives, here's your mission, here are your values, what is your strategy? You go through all of that. But at some point, all of that is really demonstrated by who you are, not by, and if you don't do that, you can run a business just based on business skills. But I don't think you run a passionate, expressive business doing that. I think it has to be you. And so I think those that are having fun in business are
Mhm.
those that are doing it according to who they are inside, not just according to a bunch of business ideologies.
Or numbers, or driven by, driven by
Yeah.
economic. Yeah, no, yeah, you have to, it's a little bit of your essence, you have to love what you do, you have to love what you do, and you have to enjoy what you do. And that's part of it, totally.
So tell me what if someone is looking to start a business and they're thinking, okay, how how would you advise someone if they came to you and said, you're a successful entrepreneur, you've run at least two successful businesses, and they're two very different kind of
Hmm.
businesses. It's not that one sort of developed or merged from the other. They're different. They're completely different. How would you coach somebody to pursue creativity and entrepreneurial endeavors?
Yeah, I would ask again, what they what part of them, like, what need they feel they don't have met. um what do they enjoy also. um I Yeah, what market they want to approach, and from there have like a fun idea. I guess it's very important to have fun, in this world you see all the names of the different companies, and they're just like fun, colorful names. It's nobody is like this serious business. Like, you also need to have fun with it, and part of the fun is being creative. So really focus on what you like and what do you want to accomplish also. So yeah, it's a a big, you know, going into business is a big endeavor, and it's also risky. So you have to just, really believe in what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, and believe in yourself. Most importantly, because
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, uh, a lot of people when I started was like, you're crazy. Like even my family is like, fashion design, you're crazy. Like, you went to business school. What are you sewing, making dresses? And it's like, you know what? That's what I love doing, and you know, I prefer that, and that became, it took me places, the fashion business. So just stick with it, be consistent. It's gonna get rough, and but you need to love what you do.
I love that. I love that. But I agree with you completely. You know where I'd like to go now? I'd like to take as we do the last third of our show. You and I, in our discussion, discovered that we have great similarity and great love for spirituality
Mm-hmm.
and for Christian spirituality, and that you were born
Mm-hmm.
and raised Catholic. I told you I'm not Roman Catholic, but I hang out at a
Mm-hmm.
monastery, and my
That's so
and
fun.
my a Benedictine monastery,
Mm-hmm.
and my spiritual director is the abbot of the monastery, so he's in charge of the monastery. So my direction comes from the Catholics because I think the
Mm-hmm.
Catholics, you know, a lot of people have negative things. Those who are not Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
even Catholics, have negative things about the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing most people do not understand, Monica, they do not understand Christian spirituality in the Catholic that comes from the Catholic Church. I think Christian spirituality, I think they started spiritual direction. I think Ignatius and that sort of work started in the Catholic Church, and deep spiritual direction, deep spiritual work, deep internal work began with the Catholics. You know, the Protestants are more about doing, and Catholic spirituality is about being. It's about intimacy. It's about present. I'm a mystical Christian, and so our in the not mystical in that wowie wooey, but just in the terms official mysticism, which is all about intimacy with the divine. And and I got that from the Catholics, from Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, and Julian Norwich and Saint Bonaventure and all of those mystics that took me to where my primary purpose in my spirituality is to become intimate with God and to work on intimate with God. Tell me how do you see spirituality and practical spirituality and Catholicism?
Yeah, I was, as you said, born in a Catholic family and went to an all-girls Catholic school. And I was kind of a little bit of a rebel girl. I was, like not rebel, but I was just like the rules and regulations of the Catholic Church for me were intimidating. But what was really attractive to me was what you're talking about, the spiritual part. And the Catholic Church has an amazing background with just the saints, for example. We have so many great examples of their lives and
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
the saints teach us, how to live life more, spiritually. And for me, I, I was, not that like more spiritual, but when I got sick with breast cancer, I really, really like s- felt God so close to me. I was a young mom, I had 3 kids under the age of 11. And it was like I had to trust God and to just say, you know what, surrender to Him and just say, you know more than I do. And to be able to trust Him in that way, to say, my kids are more your kids than my kids. And if I leave them, I know you will take care of them. And to get to that place when, when you're having chemotherapy and you don't know if, like, I had an aggressive type of cancer. So I had a transformation. And that's why I wrote the book, basically. I didn't write the book about, like, I guess the tortillas and the fashion is fun, but really the message of the book is that we're not alone. And when you feel the most alone is when is when God is hugging you the closest to Him, even if you don't feel it. Because a lot of people say, not a lot of people say, when I have this type of conversations, and sometimes they say, I am praying so hard and I just don't feel God near me. It's like, doesn't matter if you're feeling it or not. He's there with you. You just have to believe that. And that's what I realized in my journey, that we're not alone and that we're here for a purpose and that we have to trust our journey. And that also pain is part of life. And and that's also something I love about Catholic faith is that it teaches us to transform our pain and to offer it up, so that makes pain in a way valuable, and it doesn't have to scare you anymore. We're all going to go through difficult times, and it's how you react to those difficult times. It's what you're made of. And that's when I was more tested, when the biggest test came to me, I turned to my spirituality. And I turned inside myself and try to look for God inside myself, And so that's that's why I'm so grateful. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm so grateful to be alive, to be here with you talking. And so
Yes, because you've
that's,
been through a lot. Your cancer was serious.
yeah, it was serious. It was a triple negative, and it was serious. I had to have chemotherapy, radiation, and the women that I knew that had died young from cancer had died from the cancer that I got. I knew two women that had died from that
Oh,
cancer, so
really? Oh, my.
I was really scared, and so I had to surrender to the idea that maybe I'm not going to be alive tomorrow. And what what does that look like for me? What person do I want to be today? If maybe tomorrow I'm not going to be here. Um and I think I live more fully now. I worry less. I of course I worry, and I'm still human, like, but I try to view things differently. Um, and I did from my experience that I had with breast cancer. So at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I did have that experience. I'm so grateful to it because it really showed me a different path. And at the end of the book, I say it's not that important what we do. If I do dresses, tortillas, if I write, if I paint, if I do this, it's who I am inside who really matters. Like what am I gonna decide if to be optimistic or to be negative? In that type of decision. So yeah, I think that's what we were talking about.
That's great. Monica, I get several of my guests are authors or have just written a book, and um, I'm very interested in what they have to say, but rarely do I actually have time to read a book. And then after I'm done with the podcast, then I say, okay, now it's on to the next. But you know what? I'm going to go on Amazon right after our conversation, and I'm going to pick up a copy of Between Threads and Tortillas, just because I've read your writing, and I think this would probably be a really well well written piece. And now that you've described it, I'm very interested in reading about your integration of spirituality in your life and what you've done. You've got me interested, so I really want to push that book with
Thank you,
with our
Charlie.
listeners.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's been I've learned so much from you, like with our conversations. Like I really enjoy talking to you. And if you want to practice your Spanish with somebody, I can practice Spanish with you if you want.
Well, I have to start all over again. I,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't done anything, but I was intense on it. I was probably studying, oh my goodness, 5, 6 hours a week. I was studying Spanish. I was on a quick path. I
Yeah.
was, I was learning, like I do anything. If I learn, I fully vest, and I'm fully invested in that process. So that was important. We'll see. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me today. It has been so fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It's been great. As I said, I've learned so much from you. You're such a deep person, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful.
Well, thank you for the kind words. That's very sweet. Kind words always come from a kind person, and thank you for that. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.